Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. When somebody shows you who they are, you should acknowledge it and believe them. Given that since Abu Dhabi 2021, the FIA have shown themselves to at best be incompetent, or at worst be corrupt, should Toto Wolff have demanded for the introduction of independent monitors, to reassure the paddock and the public, as a condition for dropping the appeal? This is the question that we will address in this video.
Before we delve further into the topic, we invite those who haven't yet done so, to hit the like button, subscribe and click the notification icon, to be notified when the next episode is uploaded.
It is evident that there are serious concerns about the integrity of the sport and the regulator, so, we don't understand why anyone should expect the public to accept that the people, who many believe got away with Abu Dhabi, Monaco, cost caps, fuel temp, etc., will suddenly stop rigging. People who believe they are getting away with something are buoyed by a sense of impunity to continue with their wrongdoing, unless they are brought to account. For example, Donald Trump is going for a second term because he believes he got away with attempting to overturn democracy the first time around. Boris Johnson is preparing to rehabilitate himself to have another go at being Prime Minister, in the event that Sunak is defeated, because he quit before he could be sanctioned. Do you know who is supporting them both? John Malone, that's who. Malone gave Trump the media platform that propelled him to power on a bed of right-wing lies the first time around, and is doing the same again, as evidenced by the Trump CNN town hall, which Trump was only granted after Malone bought CNN. Do you know who the founder of GB News, Boris's new employer, is? Yes, it is the same John Malone. So, anyone who thinks there is no link between sports and politics, or what happened to Lewis Hamilton, and what is happening to them in their daily lives, is sadly mistaken. The same media that sold the lies about the stolen election in the US, and Brexit in the UK, is the same media that sold the lie that Marcy was entitled to rig the race and rob Lewis Hamilton. This is the same media that will attempt to sell Boris to the UK again. Malone has taken the first step of providing Boris with a platform to revamp his political career, just as he has done with Donald. These things are not happening by chance. They are the machinations of one man who is motivated by the profit he can make from enabling right-wing outrage. So, why should the FIA, who have escaped any significant sanctions since Abu Dhabi 2021, not continue with their ways? Why should the FIA and F1, under Malone, not continue to rig when they appear to have everybody in F1 on lockdown? Why should anyone believe that the FIA are not continuing to overlook or endorse Red Bull wrongdoing? This is the main problem that Toto Wolff and Mercedes created by dropping their appeal. By failing to make them accountable, Toto has given FIA, F1, and Red Bull carte blanche to continue like they have been doing, and they will continue in this manner until all the other teams band together to put a stop to the destruction of F1. At the very minimum, Toto and all the other teams should have demanded the introduction of independent monitors to ensure that everything is above board with what the FIA are doing in F1. At the very minimum, this is what is required to start repairing the damage that has been, and is continuing to be done, to the integrity of the sport. The teams, and especially the public, need to be reassured that there is no skullduggery, as there is plenty of evidence to suggest otherwise. There are other teams and drivers that were cheated by the debacle in Abu Dhabi, Monaco, and elsewhere. They are all staying silent because Malone has paid off their teams. In controlling the paddock, it appears that John Malone is applying the age-old tactic of divide and rule. Through the bilateral agreements that underpin the payment of prize money to teams, he is able to isolate the teams and play them off against each other. Previously, prize monies were paid through established formats and according to a formula that was dependent on the order in which the teams finished the season. there were some legacy payments that were made to teams like Ferrari because of their F1 history. The fact that the FIA have disavowed any knowledge of how the current bilateral arrangements work is a giant red flag that suggests that there is something about those arrangements that they wanted to be able to deny knowledge of. It is unconscionable that a regulator is unable to certify what teams are being paid, when previous issues about the gap between what the lower teams were being paid, compared to the top teams, had led to the revision of the payment formula. So, how is anyone able to certify that the issue has not resurfaced, if the regulator is kept in the dark? We have always wondered how Mercedes was paid off to drop their appeal, and now we know that it could have been through the bilateral agreement. There can be no other explanation for why Mercedes would drop the appeal, solely because of the assurances that they received from the same people who refused to acknowledge or redress the injustice. The only plausible explanation is that the money paid was large enough to shut Mercedes's mouth and close their eyes. Would Niki Lauda have ever agreed to this show of shame? A payoff is the only plausible explanation for the muted responses from Mercedes to numerous incidents that have happened since then. Because once they have accepted the bribe, they are compromised and unable to protest too strongly. Toto's outrageous claim that Abu Dhabi was down to one man was a shocker that he will never be able to live down. His latest claim that half the teams were also in breach of the plank regulation is equally shocking. He has in effect admitted that Charles and Lewis, Mercedes, and Ferrari, Max and Red Bull's leading rivals have been singled out for punishment for an infraction that is common amongst the teams. This should be a matter of serious concern in the current environment, and the fact that Toto accepted this the way he did is just further evidence of his servility. How did the FIA come to select those two for checks? How are we to be convinced that Max was not in breach as well? Or that the FIA do not routinely overlook similar breaches committed by Max? After all, if they can rewrite rules mid-race for his benefit, why will they not overlook breaches that are committed away from public view? Or, is it Martin Gopher Brundle's words we're supposed to take at face value? Let us know in the comments section if you think Gopher is trustworthy. He ain't no Johnny Herbert, is he? The FIA lack credibility because they have cried wolf one too many times. The only way to begin the long process of restoring public confidence in the regulation of F1 is for independent monitors to overlook what the FIA are doing. A sport without integrity and the confidence of the fans is doomed. F1 cannot continue to delude itself that established fans will continue to accept the disgusting manipulation that is going on at present. Things have reached the stage where questions will be asked of those who stood by and allowed John Malone to desecrate F1 and turn it into WWE. Toto Wolff and Mercedes are at risk of damaging their legacy beyond repair if they continue to allow John Malone to devalue the sport for short-term financial gain. All those other non-Red Bull teams that think that, because Lewis Hamilton is the focus of FIA attention, they can look the other way, should ask Mattia Binotto and Charles Leclerc how that has worked, or is working out for them.